When I was in high school, I took a typing class, and yes, I said typing. It's been that long ago. We're not talking word processing, we're not talking keyboards, we're not even talking electric typewriters. We're talking good old fashioned mechanical typewriters. And these fingers, they don't have a lot of dexterity. So you could actually almost measure my progress by mistakes per minute more than you could words per minute. It really was ugly. And I got frustrated and angry, and I hated typing class. And the more I hated typing class, the harder I typed, and I got into a habit of just pounding on the keys. Fast forward several decades, and my job requires that I actually do quite a bit of word processing. And so that pinky finger especially, it's working really hard because it has to hit that backspace to correct over and over and over again. I still have that same problem of my fingers not really getting the job done. I hit points where that pinky finger is just incredibly sore, and so one of the solutions that I came up with is I'll just let my fingernails grow longer. So I have an itch on my head. I bring my hand up to itch my head, and like everything else, I'm impatient, I'm in a hurry, and so I move too fast and I scratch my forehead. Not only do I have a mark on my forehead, I tend to do that same motion over and over again, and I found a month later I still had the same scab, and 2 months later I still had the same scab because I keep brushing it or picking it or doing something to it where it just doesn't heal. So now I need solutions. Do I put on gloves? Do I put a Band-Aid over it? Do I cut my nails? What should my solution be? One of the things that I never really thought about very deeply is go all the way back to that typing class. Why did I have so much trouble in typing? And part of it is just that compulsive, hard-driving personality that when I'm not successful, I get frustrated, and so I turn it inward. And when I get frustrated, what happens? Well, I just hit the keys harder and harder and harder, and so the way I struck the keys is a part of that. It's no different decades later. I'm in a hurry. I'm fast. I'm hard driving. So what do? I move my hand fast and I scrape my head with the nail. So often that's how we handle life. We look at the moment by moment. How am I going to fix this? Am I going to get a Band-Aid? Am I going to put on gloves? We look at life that way, and we don't see the deeper things that are causing. We don't see the deeper things that are driving. And frankly, if you're starting to do this work of restoration and reconciliation, and so I'm going to do my own personal inventory, or I'm going to make my list for amends, and I'm going to work through these things. If I'm going through that and I don't see the deeper parts of it, it'll end up being mechanical. The title of this message is called Where. And one of the things that we'll be talking about through this message is I've got to focus on self, and I've got to take it back to that deeper level. I need to see the heart issues. If I never see the heart issues, I probably won't be successful. I'll go through the motions, but it just won't come across as sincere with the people that I'm working with. And then I'll be even more frustrated because I took the effort, I took the time, and it still didn't work. Another important part is what I call belief systems. Frankly, in the area of wounds, in the area of reconciliation, in the area of restoration, what we tend to believe is that other person hurt me. We don't understand that we can only be hurt by what we care about, and so we tend to project onto the other person and to their behavior, that person wounded me. My belief system is that the deepest part of that wound is, first of all, what I care about, and secondly, the greatest impact on my life is not what that person did to me, it's how I respond to what that person did to me. If I allow that person to impact my behavior in a way that I create a habit, especially a bad habit, an ongoing bad habit. Now I've allowed that wound to turn into something that's radically affecting my life in a way that needs changed, but I'm going to blame the other person. If we go back to my typing example, that's really what happened. So much of that is me turning inward on myself and that drivenness that's there. And frankly, to this day, I haven't fully addressed that at the level that I would like to, because my first reaction so often with just about every situation is to turn inward and to try to drive myself into a better behavior. Until we learn to see those inner drivers and we address those things and we address our responses to the wounds and the hurts, we will blame the other person. We'll put together our list. And after we're done with our list, we think, well, if I just execute this list, everything will change. No, it won't change unless or until we get heart change. Where? Again, the where comes back to right here. When I begin to address here, yes, I may still need to go there in order to address here, but almost everything about amends, almost everything about taking that deeper inventory of self really needs to understand the deeper levels of the heart. So where do I start? I start by seeing life differently. If I'm getting ready to do a list and I want to make amends, one of the most powerful things that you need to do is understand what I call fruit. And fruit is a biblical term that talks about there's invisible stuff on the inside, and that invisible stuff is going to come out in real life. Simple example, if I walk in pride, the Bible says very clearly God resists the proud. So if I'm a proud person, I'm going to look at life much the way I described, where I'm going to try to force myself to be better, and I'm going to work really hard at it, and I'm going to take responsibility, and you can hear all of the I's. And at some point, I stop living in partnership. I stop connecting with God. I stop drawing strength. When I begin to do life by myself and I'm trying to measure up to that eternity in my heart, to where I'm really trying hard, God, to measure up, and you're asking very difficult things of me, and I just don't know if I can do it. I'm trying really hard. Well, God never intended for you to do what He asks without you also drawing strength from Him to do the very thing He's asking you to do. But the pride lifestyle doesn't see that. It just sees that life is really hard and I'm trying really hard, and God, you're being unfair, or person, you're being unfair to me. When you don't see all of that, you're going to go to another person and say, look, I tried really hard and I really did my best, and you need to pay attention to my efforts. And if you were paying attention to my efforts, you would forgive me quickly and easily. Meanwhile, the other person, because we share outcomes, the other person, if I've been significantly involved with them, has been experiencing some of the overflow, some of the fruit, some of the outcomes of the fact that I'm walking in pride. And there's a good chance that if that person was connected to me at any level at all, their life was made difficult because of their association with me. But again, I'm a pride person. I don't see any of that. I see my own efforts. I'm consumed with myself, so I can't even imagine. It's not even comprehensible to me that I've created a heaviness and some negative outcomes for that other person, because I've been working really hard to do a good job. Hopefully this illustration begins to show you what I'm talking about. If you don't understand what I often refer to as spiritual flows, when you go to a person with your list of amends, you're going to end up on that scale. In a previous video, I talked about an escalation, where the only thing I have to repent to you about is when I got really ticked off the other day and I said some things I shouldn't have said, and so would you please forgive me for that? And that's good. Please go and do that. Please ask for forgiveness for that. You need to do that. But if that's all you do, that other person's going to be standing there going, and there's more. Do you not see the whole picture? Do you not see the weight that you're dropping on me? Do you not see the demands that you're putting on me? Do you not see the excuses that you're making? Do you not see the self-pity? Do you not see the self-justification? Because if there's pride, virtually every one of those things is also going on. And this is what we do. We don't see eternity in our hearts. We don't understand that the other person is seeing things at a spiritual level, and it may or may not hit their conscious awareness, but it's going on inside. And there's an ache that's going on back and forth between the two parties. And so now I come to you with my list, and I'm going to go through my list. And when my list is done, you need to reconcile with me, and everything needs to be perfect now. It doesn't work that way, because we're real people. We're spiritual beings. We react inside of where we are spiritually. Let me take another one, which is bitterness. People who struggle with bitterness, they care deeply about relationship, and so they have relationship pain, and they want you to respond to them in a way that doesn't create any of that relationship pain. Well, if you can hear the outcomes, next comes manipulation or control or avoidance or escape or any of many other things. And so now all of this begins to get so much more complex. Here's where I'm going to encourage you as an activity to slow down. Begin to, first of all, see yourself. Take a look at some of the things we have in our writings about this spiritual flow produces this particular outcome, to where you're able to start looking at those outcomes and begin to realize, oh, you mean I'm dumping this on the people that I'm around? And the answer is, yes, you are. And when you begin to see what you're actually dumping on the other person, now your inventories are going to look completely different. Your amends list is going to look completely different, because you're seeing at a completely different level than you saw before. Now when I go to that person, I can begin to talk to them about, as a bitter person, I literally set you up to be isolated, to be cut off, maybe even to be caught in this triad of offenses where this person is set up against this person, and we have all kinds of different outcomes that are spinning off, and yeah, I helped set that up. I helped cause that. This is where I really want you to slow down. Take some time. Look at yourself. Look at the outcomes that have been created. But even beyond that, hopefully be able to get outside of yourself when you know, and know is a key word here, when you know that your spiritual stuff is dumping on another person and creating negative outcomes there. Hopefully you can step back and begin to realize, I need to see that other person. I need to see their pain. I need to feel their pain. I need to understand that I was a part of the cause of their pain. This particular one is where you do slow down, and we're starting to get serious in terms of moving towards really going and correcting things and making things better. But I don't believe you can do that until you understand this area of spirituality and what's going on the inside, and then how that grows up and it creates outcomes in those relationships. For me, my story, it was kind of nonsensical and seemed like it didn't have a lot of meaning. But so much of my stuff is driven, first of all, by pride and competitiveness and performance. And so literally the way I strike the keys of a typewriter and then later of a word processor or a computer, literally the way I strike the keys is driven by what's going on inside of me spiritually. Can you take a deeper look at yourself? Can you begin to explore this topic of fruit and understanding where that fruit goes and how it lands on other people? I believe if you can begin to see from that direction, the first thing that you'll do is begin to repent for yourself. You'll take a deeper look. You'll walk that through. You'll stop blaming other people at the level that you've blamed them for their outcomes that they've put on you, because you'll know that When I see my stuff and I draw back, I get reconnected with God. And when I get reconnected with God, I'm actually able to heal from stuff that I wanted to blame on other people. And I thought that if I could just go and talk to those people and try to get correction and get them to admit some things, I thought it would get better. It actually works better if you see this spiritual picture at a deeper level. So I want to challenge you, step back. Take a look at the exercises that were given you. Begin to take a deeper look. Take some time even beyond the exercises. Take some time to begin to see the people around you and to see what you're dumping on them and begin to take ownership of that. It's an incredibly powerful exercise. I think you'll find that it'll transform you. We'll come back with what I call a forgiveness lifestyle after the break. This video is entitled Where, as in, where do I start? Where do I go? Who do I go to? There's a lot of questions that really relate there. But I believe the best starting place is with what I call a forgiveness lifestyle. When we put together our list to look at our own actions or to try to make amends with other people, so often we're focusing on that wound and healing the wounds and hoping and expecting that that will change things. One of the key ideas that I think we need to get a hold of is that hurting people hurt people. So if you're in a place where there are many wounds and the wounds are multiplied out there to where I really need to make these lists and I need to walk it through, it's going to be everywhere. Where do you go? Where do you turn to? And my first piece of advice here is let's just completely change our thinking. If I absolutely believe that the most impactful thing on my life is not what a person does to me, but how I respond to that, and especially if my response becomes a habit, that wound does become powerful, not because it was powerful, but it becomes powerful because of my response. And early on, working with addicts, working with dysfunctional people, I had to learn that they're going to respond out of their heart. They're going to respond out of their hurt. They're going to respond out of their pain. And what have I already told you? I'm a high performance person, and especially performance in the area of relationships. So I have to know the right answer. I have to say the right thing. And for many years, I floundered in that because I put that perfectionism back on myself in a way that it's like I didn't know where to turn. I didn't know how to get better. I didn't know how to help others get better. The most powerful change that I made was when I began to realize that I am powerless. I'm powerless to help people. And that unless God shows up, unless God speaks, I don't know what to say and I don't know when to say it. But here's the most powerful thing that I can do. I learned to walk in a forgiveness lifestyle. What does that mean? That means I choose to forgive before it ever happens. I believe what I believe about the most powerful thing I can do is not in going and confronting others, it's in my response. And so I take a look at that response and I say, I don't know that I can forgive immediately. I don't know what it will take to get there, but I choose ahead of time to have a forgiveness lifestyle. In Luke 17:3, the Bible tells us to rebuke, to confront, to go to that person, and then to forgive. There are a number of other places where it tells us to just forgive. Because if you don't forgive, what you're harboring is going to block your relationship with God. It's going to block your ability to take in and to receive. So which is it? Do I confront or do I not confront? And the practical answer that I will give you is very simply is if you can forgive, my advice is just forgive. Because there's so many things out there that you could be confronting, could be dealing with. And if you take that on anywhere and everywhere, what are you going to be doing? You're going to be confronting right. You're going to be confronting left. You're going to be confronting high and you're going to be confronting low. And it's going to completely consume your lifestyle. That's where I go back. One of the most powerful things you can do is develop a forgiveness lifestyle. Get into a place where I don't need to correct you. I don't need to confront you. If God prompts me, I'm willing. If that's what I need to do for me to get better, I'll do that. But a forgiveness lifestyle is powerful, where I suddenly begin to realize it's not my job to present you perfect, unless, of course, you're closely in my sphere. And so I can take a deep breath, look at the situation, and go, wow, not my job. I have a forgiveness lifestyle. Unless God prompts me, I'm able to move on. Now, there are times when, frankly, you will need to confront, and you do need to confront. And when you're making out your list and you're looking at the different wounds, I'm going to again encourage you, if at all possible, to slow the process down. Many times there are people who are immature and they're able to go to people who are more mature. And so it doesn't matter what you bring or how you bring it. The person will love you through it. And if they love you through it, it all works. And so, wow, when I confronted the person, it works. Well, you better hope you have a mature person on the other end if that's where you're going. But so much of the time, what actually needs to happen is you need to cleanse that list. You need to purge that list. And the next standard that I want to get across is the idea of you need to confront because it's the right thing to do. If I come to you and I confront you because you hurt me, because it was wrong, because it was terrible, if I'm still having that kind of negative energy, the chances of that whole interaction going well aren't very good. And yes, I understand that sometimes that's what it takes. It takes negative energy, confronting negative energy, and somehow we slop our way through that thing to where it actually does work out, and thank God for those times when it does work out. But if you want to increase the odds of being successful when you go, you really need to purge it with this layer of because it's the right thing to do. I'm coming to you and I'm talking to you because I really do believe God wants me to do it. I need to speak up. I need to say something. And again, you don't come high and mighty. You come in with a, hey, can you help me understand? I'm struggling with this. If you'll come in with a humility, you don't have to come in as the purveyor of righteousness that's going to set everything right. Sometimes you need to come in much more of, this is my experience. This is what I'm struggling with. Can we sit down? Can we talk about it? If we can talk about it, that would really help me. When it's the right thing to do, it's not necessarily the right thing to do because you have all understanding and you're rebuking the other person. It's just that it's time. It's time for us to sit down. It's time for us to talk. It's time for us to reconcile. It's so important that we get off of that high judgmental place where we're coming to others and we're using our list and I need you to respond in a particular way. If that's where you are, again, it's just not going to go well. When we allow God to deal with our heart and we get into a place where forgiveness is now a lifestyle, I have that part already laid down, but I'm still feeling a conviction that I need to come to you. I need to talk to you. Let's sit down. Let's talk this thing out. Let's work this thing out. My value of our relationship is high enough that I can't just let this set here. Let's talk it through. Let's find a way to come into a common ground. When that's where I am, I'm setting myself up for success at that point. Does that guarantee that the other person will respond well? No. But if you've done this work, it hopefully will guarantee, again, not make easy, it may take some working out, but it hopefully will guarantee that even if it doesn't go well, I know that I've done what God called me to do. So when nighttime rolls around, I can put my head down on the pillow and I can go to sleep. Not because I got it restored, but because I did what God wanted me to do. I'm in connection with God. I'm able to go to accountability people. I'm able to go to the people I love. And I'm able to hold my head up and speak with a pure heart and a clear conscience. That's incredibly powerful when you're living that way. This segment has been dealing with getting your own heart right first. Again, I'm huge on that. Developing a forgiveness lifestyle, getting to the point to where I'm talking to you because I just need to. It's the right thing to do. We don't have to get resolution. It doesn't have to be worked out in this one situation. I want you to take a look at your own heart. Begin to look at the ways that you approach people, approach life. Take some time to discuss it with others and really process the things that we're saying. And when we get back, we will continue with this idea of where do I start? Where do I go? How do I put myself in the best place that I can put myself so that I can be successful in this reconciliation, restoration work? So where do I start? The best answer is I start wherever I can. I start wherever I am. I start right here. I start right now. In a previous video, I had talked about God has already started. It is right here. It is right now. It is with other people. When you understand the heart and how it works, if I'm dumping pride on someone else, I'm going to get a consistent set of outcomes. That means that whoever you're with today, whoever you're around today, some of the same stuff is happening. And over again, when I try to point this out to people, they'll immediately deny it and say, no, I didn't say that. I didn't respond that way, because they're not seen at a heart level yet. But where do I start? We always want to make it about a person, and God many times has a situation right in front of us. Let's just start right there. Let's start with that person. Let's start with that situation. At a practical level, sometimes God will give you the easy ones first. And that's the best way to do it. I need to practice. I need to build up. I need to build up some confidence. And I'm not sure which way to tell you to do it, but in general, if I was to give a rule, it would be that. It's like start here, start now, start with the easy ones, build up some success, work through the process, work through the, I really did it. I can remember a period with my own wife that those words didn't tumble off my tongue very easy of, I'm sorry, dear, I was wrong. And it took me a while of practicing that over and over to where that word really started coming out of my mouth in a more natural vein. Again, the pride piece. It was hard to look at her and say, I was wrong. I'm sorry. Will you please forgive me? I learned to practice that over and over again. And again, if you're a pride person and you've been imposing that on someone else, they actually kind of like to hear the words. And when they like to hear the words, then you're prone to get all angry all over again of, well, you don't have to respond this way. And so you might actually have to work with your own response in this picture as well. Sometimes God wants you to do what I call winner take all. Many times there is a wound that is so huge that it's literally governing everything else. And now and then I find people that if they don't go after the big one, if they don't go after the linchpin, if they don't go after that thing that's driving everything else, they can't get better and they won't get better. If you're going to do that, again, I would encourage you to get some help. Have somebody praying with you, have somebody advising you, have them help you walk it through, write out the testimony, think about all of the different outcomes, surrender those outcomes to God, because all of that is going to be so important. You need to know that it's not your job to fix the situation. It's your job to take responsibility. It's your job to walk it through. And so there will be times that you can't live with you, or you can't live with yourself because you're not confronting the other person if you don't walk all of that through. You do need to be led by God. And you do need to start. And you need to start somewhere, generally with the easy ones. But in some cases, if God's leading you to go after, quote unquote, the big one, I encourage you, don't do it blindly. Don't do it foolishly. Get some help. Walk it through. Do the things that we're talking about so that you've done your homework and you do it right. Give yourself the best chance to do this in a way that it will be successful. and there will be at least as much restoration of relationship or a positive outcome as possible. Where do I start? I start by seeing the bigger picture. If God really is calling you to go, and maybe go to that really big one, to that one that's just really key, what I will tell you is reconciliation and restoration should fit inside of the bigger picture of what God is doing. If you're an impatience person, God may deal with your impatience by saying, no, not yet, not this person, not this time. And almost always, reconciliation, restoration will fit inside of the bigger picture. And the bigger picture, you've got to be looking to God, hearing from God, growing in God. Are you in prayer? Are you getting to places of peace, getting to that anchor point? Are you building relationships with people? Are you drawing strength from people and building a team? If those things are going on, at some point you should be able to look in the mirror and begin to realize, oh, this is what God is doing with me. This is where He's taking me. This is how He's working with me. When you understand that and you understand the bigger picture of that, now you can ask yourself, okay, if this is what God is doing with me in general, what would God want to do with me in reconciliation? And many times the very people that you need to go to, that you need to talk to, it's going to line up perfectly with this bigger picture. So if there's a part of you that's like, I have to have this fixed in order to feel better, the odds are it's going to blow up on you. Take a deep breath, step back, and understand, no, God's building patience. God's teaching me to wait on Him, to listen to Him. All of this is so important because we think that we can do amends. We think we can do our list of everything I've done wrong, and so now I'm going to clean it up, and I'm going to tell you, no, you can't. What you can do is you can humble yourself, hear what God's saying, take it one step at a time, interact with the people God has sent your way to partner with you. When that's your approach, you're going to find that it works so much better. Again, I want you to answer some of the questions that I've raised. What is God doing in your life right now? You need to see that bigger picture. Then you need to be able to take that and you need to start applying it to where you need to go in this whole area of reconciliation. And hopefully at some point then you actually have your targets, you have your plan of, this is who I need to talk to. This other one can wait. I want you to share with some other people in this area because that's important. Building team, which we'll be talking about in the next segment, is so important in order for you to have the strength and the skill that you need to pull this thing off. When we come back, we will explore the idea of a clean heart and building a team. I've already said it, but it needs to be repeated. I start with the goal of having a clean heart. So often people in this whole area of reconciliation, restoration are what I call justice people. They're not okay until everything's made right. They're not okay until restitution is done. They're not okay until, if I've done something wrong to you, I've humbled myself and I've really done everything I can do to make it right. What I will tell you is that's the wrong approach. Step back, begin to understand that nothing is going to work well until I have the goal of a clean heart. When I get to that place of getting a clean heart, getting a pure heart, then if that other person demands restitution from me, there's a good chance that I'll look at that and go, wow, you know what? That would be the right thing to do. So I don't respond with an ugliness. I don't respond with a bitterness. There are times when someone will demand restitution from you as a kind of vengeance, as a kind of club against you. And frankly, it's actually not a good thing to do. It wouldn't be good for that other person spiritually. It's like you bowing down and becoming subservient in a way that actually allows that other person to be kind of a jerk, a controller, in a way that actually is not healthy. Now, how are you going to judge all of that unless you have a clean heart? How are you going to know what the right response is unless you've spent time with God and you're able to anticipate ahead of time a little bit of what's coming down, and you've actually practiced these kinds of responses. You've gone through it with some easier situations and some people to where you've learned, oh, this is how I need to respond, and this is what God would think, and this is how God would respond. If you don't practice that clean heart over a period of time in multiple situations, when that crucible hits, when the fire is on, when the ugliness is there, and the answers are going back and forth, and it's beginning to get hotter and hotter, will you be able to step back and say, wait, whoa, let's just slow this down. I didn't come with the idea that I'm going to force you to reconcile or restore or any of that. Can we just start at a basic level of hearing one another and understanding one another? It's much easier to slow the process down. It's much easier to back the process down to where it gets into a healthy place if I come with a clean heart. If I've already cleansed my motives, if I've already seen those things, so that when the other person starts hammering me and they start talking about the outcomes they've experienced, it's like, yeah, I see that. I get that. I own that. And you're not defensive, and you're not angry, and you're not answering back in ways that are going to complicate the process. All of that comes out of a clean heart. And if you don't get to that place of a clean heart, it's not good. Now, can God do it on the backside? He can. There are times when He will tell you to go. And when you go and you get confronted, you'll come away from that and you'll be able to examine your own heart to a much greater degree. And so you'll get the cleansing as a part of having gone. It happens that way too. Again, the number one rule, you need to hear from God. You need to know what He's leading, what He's directing, and then you walk it through as blameless as you can, with integrity in every part, not allowing it to escalate, not allowing it to re-injure. It's so important that you have this mindset as you're moving forward. To me, the ultimate where comes out of the idea that we're spiritual beings. We need connection. If you go all the way back to my typing example, the more frustrated I got, the more perfectionistic I got, the more I was cut off from God, the more I was getting into a zone to where I was pounding harder and harder. That's such a picture of what we do and how we do life. When I understand I am absolutely spiritual, I begin to realize just how much I need team. I need God, first of all, on my team. I need connectedness with God above anything and above everything. And I need people. I need to draw strength. The two things that I say that will absolutely change your life. Are you drawing strength from God? Number one. Are you drawing strength from godly people? Number two. What wounds do, they cut us off from God, because when I'm in bitterness, I push Him away. I'm not able to draw strength. Number two, they cut us off from people, and it's like, are you kidding me? With all the wounds that I have, with all the baggage I have, do you think I'm going to trust anybody? And the greatest negative outcome of a wound is that I won't turn around and trust in a healthy place. Again, I'm not encouraging you to go back and trust in unhealthy places. If you're trusting an unhealthy person, you'll keep getting what you've always gotten. But what happens is the unhealthy, the hurtful, the painful shuts us down from ever trusting anywhere. So I'm not able to trust. I'm not able to draw strength. I want you to think about putting this reconciliation, restoration piece inside of this picture, to where the big picture needs to be that I need to stay reconciled with God. I need to stay reconciled with mentors. I need to stay reconciled with people who are going to sow into me, because I can't heal the big ones. I can't confront the big ones. I can't talk with the big ones unless I've first drawn some life into me. It's so important. Don't allow these life issues to cut you off from your growth, from your health, from your life. if we keep that perspective and we say, all right, as I'm thinking about reconciliation, I don't need to run ahead of myself. I need to stay in this area. I need to make sure that I'm keeping these connections going. When they're going and they're healthy, I'm headed in the right direction. God is more than able to convict you if it's time for you to go to someone, if it's time for you to bare your soul. God is more than able to convict you, and when God convicts you, it'll be pressure, a little bit more pressure, a little bit more insistent. When you're convicting yourself, it'll be boom, you loser. When are you going to get your act together? What's wrong with you? You've got to do this. There's a completely different feeling when I'm connected to God and I'm responding to God. There's a completely different feeling. There's a completely different approach. And when I'm approaching another person inside of that, I have a chance, a much better chance for good outcomes. Again, not guaranteed. That other person may still respond badly. But after they respond badly, back to my rule, I can go to bed and put my head on the pillow and sleep. But if I've done it in self, if that thing goes badly, immediately I'm going to have 10,000 voices screaming at me, you did it wrong, you're a loser, when are you ever going to get it together? And all of that sense of falling short of eternity that God's put in my heart. This is who I am, this is who I'm supposed to be, and I tried to reconcile with that person and it didn't work, there must be something wrong with me. All of those voices are screaming at us continually. Learn to quiet those voices. Learn to see what God is doing. Go with that flow. Get a clean heart. Get to that point where your first priority is not to get this one situation cleaned up. Your first priority is, am I connecting with God? Am I drawing strength? Am I building a team? Am I drawing strength? Am I becoming the kind of person where tomorrow I'm at least not creating new issues, new hurts, new wounds, new bonds? I want to live in a way that I can go back and clean up the old ones and I'm not creating more new ones at the same time. That's a good way to live. There's a phrase out there that sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But right now I'm going to use it, let go and let God. In the context of what we've been talking about, get it surrendered, get into a place of humility, get it out of a place of urgency, learn to obey God. If you'll stay in that place, you will see far more success in your reconciliation, restoration efforts. Take a few moments, share with one another, and again, we do hope to see you back for the next video in the series.